Hello paddlers, welcome back to my channel. Well, if you watched my last video, I mentioned in it I need to get a rudder. Now first of all, I'll tell you what this video is. I'm showing you how I install a rudder onto my kayak. It'll be a long video, right? I don't know how long yet because I haven't made it yet. But because I'll be taking you through all the steps on how I did it. Really quick, just in case you're new and you don't know what a rudder or skeg is. Basically, a rudder and a skeg is something that drops into the water behind your boat or near the back of your boat. And it's to help with a thing called wind cocking, which basically means the back of your boat turns in the wind. So you end up doing, say, 8 strokes on the left to every 1 stroke on your right, or vice versa, because the wind is turning your boat. And a skeg or a rudder helps to prevent that and makes it a lot easier, makes you go more in a straight line. They basically do the same things, apart from with a rudder, you can manually turn it with your foot pegs on your kayak. Okay, that's what a rudder and a skeg is. Alright. Now, first of all, I did consider getting a skeg for the kayak. I thought it'll be easier. I'll just put the mounting plate underneath and then just slide the skeg on and off when I need it. That idea went out the window pretty quick because I find the kayak to be quite heavy. I'm getting on a bit. I find the kayak to be quite heavy. So if I put the skeg on, I would actually have to carry the boat, carry the boat into the water then. And I can lift it because I lift it onto the trolley, but to carry it, I know I'd end up injuring myself at my age now. I'm not as strong as I used to be. So the only other alternative would be to put the kayak in the water, then go underwater and slide the skeg in and stuff. And then when you're coming back to the shoreline, stop short, get out the boat in the water, and it'd be a lot of messing about, right? So the skeg idea went out the window. Now you do get some boats that have a skeg box. It's all built into the kayak. You flick a switch, so to speak, and the skeg drops out the bottom of the kayak. You flick it again and it pulls up into the kayak. But mine don't come with one of them. So it had to be a rudder. No choice. No choice, had to be a rudder. And as you just seen, I've already picked one up. Now, actually, it was a couple of days before it arrived. My brain started thinking, I've got problems here. Because with a rudder, you fix it on the back of your boat, you run 2 cables inside your boat, all the way along your boat, and connect them to your foot pegs, which you can do with the kayak. You can even buy a rudder kit from kayak, with everything in it that you need. But you run these 2 cables through the inside of your boat, connect them to your foot pegs, and then 1 cable runs from the rudder to basically the cockpit where you're sitting, and that's what you use to lift the rudder up and down or in and out of the water. And I thought to myself, I don't want to mess about, because when I get somewhere, I'd have to attach the rudder, then run the cables back through, connect them back onto the foot pegs, and then when I've finished, I'll have to take all the clips out the foot pegs, run the cables back through, because the kayak stacks on top of itself. It's not just like a one solid kayak, whereas you connect the rudder up, done, that's it. So I thought, I don't want to do that. So I've come up with a solution, sort of. I'm turning the rudder into a skeg. I should clarify here. You see, here's your rudder, you've got it on, I'll tell you what. Back here, I'll go back a bit. Back of your boat, right? Your rudder, I know you can't see this bit here, but your rudder basically sits there like that, right? On the back of your boat. And then you pull a cord, right? And your rudder drops down into the water. Brilliant. You release the cord and it comes back up again. While it's in the water, I can hold this. This bar here, controlled by the pedals, turns. Okay, so you turn it with your pedals. But because of the reason why I just said with all the cables and stuff, I want to lock this in place. I don't want it to move, so I want the rudder to work more like a skeg, just locked in, which will be just as good. It won't be as good as a movable rudder, but it'll be just as good. Now, a couple of problems I came up with that is, you see the rudder pin here is smooth, right, with a little edge on. Right, hopefully you can see that. Now what that's for, you have a locking pin mounted in the back of your boat. Some come with that pin, some you have to attach yourself, and you basically slide that. I'll show you again. Mine does not come with a locking pin, but you basically slide it in, twist, and it locks in place. Right? Whereas I want to keep that locked in as more like a skeg, as I said. So I thought, how do I attach? You see, this is my attachment. I've had to buy that. So I had to wait 2 weeks for this. It had to come from China. I couldn't get one anywhere in the UK. This goes on the back of my boat. That fits in there, and it would turn, right? As you turn, you move your foot pegs, but I don't want that. So I thought, how do I get that locked in place once it's all connected up? I did think about using a tap and die set and putting a thread on this so I can actually bolt it to the attachment. But because of this gap here, and because this part is flat and the rest is rounded, I was actually worried I could, as I'm putting the, oh, and real quick, if you don't know what a tap and die set is, basically it's somewhat, you know, like a nut and bolt, it's somewhat that makes the grooves for the nut to go onto. There you go. Alright, but I was worried when I was putting the tap and die on and making grooves to connect nuts on, because of this gap here and this flat piece here, it might not be level and the nut might not go on and I could have problems. So I thought, oh, I don't want to risk that. I don't want to risk it. So what I come up with is, I will show you, jump shot. And I'm back. Yeah, I've come up with this to use this JB Weld steel stick. Now I'd never used it. I have used JB Weld epoxy before, and it's bloody good stuff. It literally, you mix the two epoxies together, and if you've got two pieces of metal and they weld, it very, very clever. It's like a weld and it dries rock hard. Whereas this stuff, it's like a putty. Yeah, basically it's in a tube, right? You break a piece off. I'm not going to open the lid because it does smell a bit. You break some off, right? You rub it together. They say you don't need gloves, but I'd recommend gloves. You rub it together as if you're playing with plasticine or Play-Doh or whatever. And then once it's all gone the same colour, which is like a blacky grey, I believe, and then you just mould it around what you want, and it just, after an hour it's pretty hard, but it's best to leave it a few hours. And like I said, I've never used this before. And all the YouTube videos I've seen, they say leave it overnight. Right, so better safe than sorry. But what I thought was, once I have this attached to the back of the boat, slide that in and basically slide the rudder into the bracket, basically use some of that putty, seal it all up, put it all round to lock it in place, and hopefully that will stop the rudder from spinning in the water, because I don't want to run cables through the boat. Even though the kayak does come, this is a groove slot ready for your rudder to rest on, which will make lining it up a lot easier. And if you see these two little nipple bits sticking out, they're marked for you to basically drill to run your cables through. Alright, so everything's ready, well, it is, everything's ready, but I don't want to run cables through for the reason I've said, for packing away, having to unclip all the cables, pull them all out for restacking that. I thought that'll be a nightmare, and that's why I thought I'll turn the rudder into a skeg. And as I said, to stop that from spinning in the actual bracket, because if not, it'd be in the water. Just imagine that, so that it should be that way and pulled down, but it's not. This is on like a spring, you see, right? And it'll just keep bouncing up. But just imagine, that's why I'm holding it funny. That's on the back of my boat. That's in the water. The water itself would just, and you know what I mean. It would be a nightmare, right? So I didn't want it to move while it was in the water. So that's my idea. Whether it works or not, I don't know. But I thought I'd take you through the steps of it. Now, I'll show you this real quick in case you're interested. Right, I'll show you better when it's all on the boat. These 2 points, you run a cable round here, like a paracord. And this one that runs through, right, is for actually, you pull it and it runs to your cockpit, and it's for lifting up and dropping the actual rudder. These two holes here and here are the ones that run through the, you connect more paracord, shall we say. It's not exactly paracord, but whatever. And you run cable from there to there, and you run them through your boat and connect them to your foot pegs. So when you press on your foot pegs, right, that's when the rudder will turn in the water. But I don't want that to happen because of all the messing about with the cables. Right, so the first thing I have to do is take the back of the boat, right, connect this piece onto there. Right, now this is very, very, very important. You don't want that, I'll show you that way. You don't want that on an angle. It has to be completely flush, right, as in that positively in a straight line, because if not, your rudder's going to be on an angle in the water and you're going to be doing circles all the time. So this has to be spot on. Right, it's not as bad if I was running the cables through it, because I could adjust the size of the cables to straighten up, but I'm locking this in place. Right, so this has to be dead level. So I intend to mark it, put one screw in slightly loose, then get a spirit level that way, get a spirit level and make sure everything is completely flush before putting the second screw in and locking it all up. And then it's basically a case of, connecting the rudder on or sliding the rudder in, getting some of this steel putty, right, wrapping it round these areas and hoping it grabs the pin. I say hoping, I've never used this before, but like I said, I've used their epoxy. Now before anyone says, why don't you use their epoxy this time then, George? Because there's a gap between the actual pin from the rudder and the holes. In other words, the hole's bigger. Right? epoxy would drip through a little bit, whereas because it's putty, I can literally push it in and push it down on both sides and hold it with my fingers, right, to really fill the gap, right, and hopefully that'll lock into place. It's somewhat like 1,000 psi's worth of pressure, right, so the water won't move it, right. So hopefully this will work, and let's find out, shall we? Now, whether you're going to watch this full video or not, because I know it's turning out to be long already. I don't know what my time frame there is. That's 7 minutes, and there must have been 7 before that, so that's like nearly 14 minutes, and I ain't even started yet. Feel free, right? If you're gonna skip bits, fine, right? But if you've got any questions, if you're planning on doing this, you've got any questions, feel free just to ask us in the comments. I'm likely to say go to 8 minutes 42 seconds and it's in the bloody video. Don't skip next time. No, I'm not that nasty. I'm not that nasty. I know when it's a long video, some people, I say some because I don't, I know some people do skip through bits. My brother does. I don't think my brother has ever watched one of my videos fully, ever. As soon as he sees me talking, he skips. As soon as I open my mouth, he skips, all right, just to see the paddling bit. And I know some people do that. All right, so if you've got any questions, assuming this works, all right, you'll have to find out till the end. But as long as this holds, I can't see any reason why it won't work. Now, there is also the chance, because I'm locking this in place, right, when the actual rudder is on the boat like that, that's roughly, it'll be the opposite way around, but that's roughly how it'll be locked in place, right? When it's locked in like that, will it still stack? Because you're meant to disconnect this in real life, shall we say. So there's a chance, which we'll find out at the end, there's a chance my boat won't stack. However, because this is just the small arse end, the stern, I'm not that worried if this bit has to go in the car separately. It's only one piece. It's not like if it was the centrepiece, somewhat huge or something. This will just fit underneath the seat or something. So it's not the end of the world if this bit won't restack. Which, to be quite honest, I don't think it will once that rudder is locked in place. But it's a compromise, because I don't want to run the cables through the boat and have to mess about taking them out each time. So the bottom line is I'm turning the rudder into a locked in skeg, which will help with wind cocking, which I've already explained. Okay then, right, let's get on with it then.